Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another round of sound. It's the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about. I'm Bob Pompeani. We'll get into the Penguins at the trade deadline. One guy they didn't trade was Rickard Rakell. But by far the biggest story tonight and the #1 topic on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown will be DK Metcalf coming to Pittsburgh. Here to talk about is your panel. We have Jeff Hathhorn, sports director of 93.7 The Fan, Mark Kaboly from Pat McAfee Show, and Chris Mueller, PM Team 93.7 The Fan. All right, we all thought we're going to come into this day talking about quarterbacks, and we still are, because that's going to be an issue moving forward. But for now, this is an interesting deal. And for a second-round pick, Mark, I'll start with you. Second-round pick, they had to agree to a deal, $150 million over 5 years. Did you see it coming, and what does it mean for George Pickens?
Well, we didn't see it coming because there was no team sources or league sources being leaked out there, which means we should have known it was coming. It's honestly a very expensive acquisition, but a very much needed acquisition as well. I mean, what is he, 27 years old? You're having for 5 years.
Two-time Pro
$30
Bowler.
million is about average, a little bit above average at this point. Omar Khan has said time and time again this offseason they need playmakers, and that's a playmaker right there. So, I mean, off to a blazing start here. I don't think you can do any better than DK Metcalf right now.
I give him credit, a splashy move. I think that this is the kind of move that does excite a fan base, even not knowing who the quarterback is going to be. He's a better player than George Pickens. He's a better player than Brandon Ayuk, who they were ready to dangle $30 million in front of last year. He is one of the elite, pure, deep threats and physical talents at the position in the league. As great as Pickens is physically, this is one of the short list guys that's better physically. And he's also, and you know this is going to matter, he is a very willing blocker in the running game. That has been his MO. He has all the highlights chasing down Budda Baker. He's willing to put his hands on somebody and hit him in the running game. And so I'm excited about it, you know, because it's, wow, that's a big, bold move by the Steelers, finally getting one done here for a second, by the way, which I said it wasn't going to be a first. When they were asking for first and third, that was comical. But now, who's going to throw him the football?
I mean, the guy's size, you're talking about moving guys. I mean, they have to move when he gets his hands on them because he's so big. He just turned 27.
Yep.
He's putting up those kind of numbers with Geno Smith.
Well, hold on. I won't brook any Geno Smith slander. If they had offered Geno Smith $45 million a year, I'd be over the moon. Geno Smith is a good quarterback, at times a very good quarterback, playing behind I almost swore because that's how bad it is, a terrible offensive line in Seattle. Geno Smith is a baller.
Wait a minute. $45 million for Geno Smith?
Yes, absolutely.
Who knows? They may do that with Sam Darnold.
Geno Smith is a good quarterback. He's like top 10 to 12 in the league. I will die on that hill
Thank
tonight,
goodness
boys.
you're not the Steelers general manager.
Maybe I should be. Since the de facto GM is the head coach, I probably would do a better job.
All right. But I love the Metcalf signing. I mean, he brings you a legit playmaker, not a maybe playmaker, not a sometimes if the attitude is right playmaker. He's a playmaker all the time. And when, to Chris's point and Mark's point, when he's not making plays catching the ball, he can make a play blocking.
Mark, let me ask you about what this means for George Pickens now, because he has 1 year left. A lot of people thought they may extend him. So will he be here this fall, or do you think he'll be traded before then?
Boy, every indication points to that he's on his way out, either soon or by the draft to recoup a pick or two. But just imagine this offense. Just play around a little bit here. If you get a decent quarterback, whoever it might be, and you got George Pickens playing at a high level, DK Metcalf, and some of those third receivers that they had there,
I'll stop you
all
right
of a
there,
sudden
then,
you're
Mark.
looking pretty decent right now.
That sounds great in
For a
theory.
year.
That sounds great in theory, and we all love the way it sounds if everyone sings Kumbaya. This puts a ton of pressure at getting Metcalf, whatever you do with Pickens, on Mike Tomlin to open up his offense. You just paid premium money for a big-time weapon in the passing game. You've got to open up what you like to do and let whoever's throwing him the ball take chances to get him the ball, or else why are you paying him $30 million a year?
And for those that immediately think that it's not going to happen, A.J. Brown had good numbers with Arthur Smith. I mean, he knows how to utilize a deep threat. But to your point, he's not allowed to do it if Tomlin says, I don't want to turn it over.
Don't pay a guy $30 million at wide receiver to be a decoy.
Man, they wanted playmakers. They've said playmakers. I've said this already. So why are you adding one and subtracting one when you don't really have to right now? Maybe you do have to eventually. Right now, I just let it sit and play. I don't know if that's what they'll do.
So you would play him one more year and then go from there?
Maybe a half a year.
I think
if he's
that's
too much of a trouble, trade deadline, whatever.
If he's unhappy, he's unhappy.
I want that out there with the playmaker after playmaker after playmaker. Give him a full deck full of cards to play with offensively and see what can happen. I know there's a big joker in there, the quarterback, but
Well, that's what we're going to talk
let's
about
wait and
next.
see.
Chris, everyone seemed to think it was Justin Fields, right? He was going to be the guy. He still may be the guy. As of this moment, when we're doing this show here, no news on that. Sam Darnold's name's been mentioned. Diane Rossini said that. I don't see that happening. There's too much money.
I also just don't think he's that good. I thought he was
Who
in
will
a
it be
perfect
there?
situation.
Right, I do too.
I don't have a great answer for you because Fields, to me, was the perfect bridge to 2026 when ostensibly you were going to draft your next franchise quarterback while the draft is here. Hey, let Fields run like an offense where he knows he's the man. It's play action heavy. Now you've got two deep threats for the time being in there. But I think that he's a little stung as well as he handled being benched after he went 4-2. There's clearly like I want to see what the rest of the league thinks of me, right? Like
As
he
he
doesn't
should.
necessarily just want to say, oh yeah, I love it so much here. It's great. Just give me stability. He wants to see what he's worth out there. And I think the Jets are very interested.
Bob, I don't know if you know that DK Metcalf started his career with Russell Wilson.
Oh, I know that. But I also know
Please,
that
no. Oh no.
that would cost. How much money are we talking about for him then?
I don't think that's going to happen. I'm just putting it out there
They
because
wanted
people are
Russ-
going to make
they
that
wanted Russ
connection.
to be there.
They're going to
He'd
make
already
that
I think
been
that would have been done because I don't think he has that many options compared to maybe Justin Fields because of the youth. So, yeah, that.
You leave it wide open right now, Pomp. You don't know what's going to happen. I guess it's all going to be.
I've even heard Aaron
It's the
Rodgers' name's thrown into this.
I
whole
would,
thing.
at this point.
But
if it comes down to it, I wouldn't.
If you are
shying
looking
away
for
from
those
that.
free agents away from Justin, isn't the Steelers situation a little bit better right now than it was just a couple of hours ago?
Don't you tell DK Metcalf who your quarterback's going to be before he signs here?
Or do you think $150 million or whatever the guarantee
Yeah, but they didn't.
number
He was
is?
traded.
Miles Garrett thought he
Well,
could
he
never
had
play
to
in
agree
Cleveland
to a
before
deal
money
for that to
started to
happen.
talk, right?
I bet you they have a plan, and
Who do
they
you
told.
think it is?
I don't know. I don't know. It could be a bunch of.
With all the money they're going to end up spending, we're
They're
going to
not-
get into
it's not
Watt
gonna
in a
be gone.
second. They're not. They'd rather have, I think, a quarterback for $15 million a year for a couple of years.
We're all talking about this year's quarterback, and rightfully so. That's what we care about. But getting DK Metcalf isn't just about placating whoever your quarterback
No,
is
it's-
this year. It's about
That is
whoever you
right.
draft in 26.
That helps build that foundation because he's going to be around for 5 years.
Exactly.
We're due for a break. We'll take it right now. When we come back, we're going to talk about some other things going on in the world of the Steelers right now, including T.J. Watt and his future. It's all coming up right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. All right, we're back with more on #1 Cochran Sports Showdown, talking about another interesting development today, and that was Myles Garrett, who said he would never play for Cleveland. Not just not play, doesn't want to be part of it, wants to go to a playoff team. And what did he do? He signed a new deal, and it's a record-breaking one. Jeff, Max Crosby just got a record the other day. And here we go with another new record. And so
Short-lived.
T.J. Watt's sitting there thinking, okay, with the Steelers, if they wanted to sign him, and it seems like they should have maybe done it earlier in this process, it may have saved him some money. What do you think will happen with him?
I don't think he's going to get the $40 million that we just saw happen in Cleveland with that whole drama scenario. I'm not going. He played that well. He ended up getting what he wanted and being the highest receiver. Listen, his brother said on Pat's show that it's looking like it's going to be from 35 to 40. That's what he's going to want. Remember the last time it took until Thursday before the first game before he signed. I could see this thing dragging out for a long time.
I have a theory. JJ also said the Steelers might have messed this up by not doing it earlier. You're talking about wanting the contract before this past season. Makes me feel like they're a little antsy because they know TJ also is coming off one of his worst by sack total full seasons. They're going to give him a good contract.
What is a good contract?
They're going to give him $30 million plus.
How about if he wants to top Garrett?
I would tell him, take a hike. You can look for a trade. I would have traded him, by the way, before the start of last season. Like, that's how you aggressively try to make moves and reshape your roster. But they think he's a one-helmet guy, and I think that that's going to be sort of their downfall. T.J. Watt individually, terrific. What have they accomplished as a team with him as one of their true centerpiece players?
Yeah. So, Mark, what do you think?
There's absolutely no way in the world I trade T.J. Watt.
But what's the money?
None.
What's the money? How about if he says
3 for 100, 35 a year.
How about if he wants to top Garrett?
I would entertain that, but he doesn't seem like that guy that would want that. I mean,
Why wouldn't he? His brother's out there lobbying for him in the media, basically saying, you should have done this earlier, and now you're going to have to pay the price.
Well, you know darn well how maybe that was more of a shot at doing things old school, rather than
They
doing
already
it too-
guaranteed him money more than they had ever guaranteed
what
somebody
I'm
that wasn't
saying
a
is
quarterback, though, before.
They don't extend guys past 2 years other than quarterbacks, so maybe that was something like that. I mean, you give him $35 million a year, he's coming back. I mean, I don't understand. This almost reminds me to a degree of Cam Hayward last year. Everybody was on the board of getting rid of him. He's on his way down. He's on his way down. No, T.J. Watt is still the elite pass rusher in my eyes in this league, and you just don't find those guys anywhere. Nick Herbig, great secondary player. Is he ever going to be that guy?
Wait, you think he's the elite pass rusher in the league? I don't even think he's the elite pass rusher in the division.
He's an elite pass rusher. Now he needs some help.
I don't think he is. You don't think he's better than Garrett?
Garrett's right with him, and so is Crosby.
Yeah.
Crosby also never takes a play off and doesn't disappear. Like, TJ was on a milk carton for the last month of the season.
Yeah, but overall his numbers, I mean, if you look at them across the board, they're better than Myles Garrett in just about everything. Now, Max Crosby's come on of late. He's younger, too, so.
He might be able to use a little bit of help to his right. I'm talking about TJ. That might help him.
D coordinator too.
That might help him a little bit. Listen, he's going to be 32, and you wonder how much the Steelers look at what Cam did this year as arguably the best defensive lineman in the game. At his age, does that mean that they believe that TJ could do 32, 33, 34, 35 at that type of rate where they're going to seriously look at $40 million?
Here's a question I have for both of you. Since when are the Steelers the team? And I get it. You know, I said he wasn't the best pass rusher in the division, whatever. He's still an all-time great. He's a gold jacket waiting to happen. But, like, aren't they the team that even with those guys at that position at edge rusher, we'll cycle through it and we'll keep drafting them and we'll just replace you when you get prohibitively expensive. And yet they are treating him now in his early 30s completely differently.
I do think they know that he still has stuff to offer here for the next several years.
I'm not saying he doesn't have anything to offer. I'm saying, does he have $35 million worth to offer?
The market keeps changing. That's why I wish they would have. If they had done it earlier, they wouldn't have gotten to this
The
point.
comparisons to JJ are just ridiculous too, because you know what? I tore both my Achilles. Does that mean my brothers had torn Achilles? No. I mean, you can't compare one to the other. JJ played different position. He retired when he was 32. Doesn't mean that all of a sudden TJ is going to be done at 32.
Before we get done with this segment, I'll ask you guys about Josh Allen. Got a new deal today too, which is $330 million. Jeff, start with you on this one. The Buffalo Bills have spent a ton of money here over the last, what?
What money?
No, yeah, right, exactly.
I don't know.
He had 4 years left on a deal. Did they do this because they knew that that market's still going to be going up? Do it now and save you money in the long run. What do you think was behind 4 years left and extending them beyond that?
That and they're in their window. We're going to go for it. We're going to lock up our biggest asset and go for it. And we know the security we have at quarterback. We know the cap's going to keep continuing to go up because the NFL is not going down anytime soon. Lock up your biggest asset.
I think you do that with quarterbacks. I think the team that basically did that first with Mahomes, that number looked crazy
So what's he gonna
3 or 4 years ago, and now it looks like he's cheapest.
They'll redo his soon enough.
What I'm saying is, as the cap keeps going up, the quarterback salaries keep going up. You get them under contract as long as you can right now for the cheapest you can right now, then you move on.
Allen's a force multiplier, too. He makes guys around him better. He's not seemingly right now like Burrow, where Burrow wants all the high-priced weapons kept, too. Allen didn't even want Diggs there. It was obvious at the end. And I do think he showed this year that he's starting to learn to play within structure so that he'll age a little more gracefully than people think.
Interesting stuff as the NFL continues to get toward legal tampering tomorrow, and a lot more news coming your way. In the meantime, we're going to talk about the Penguins and what they did at the trade deadline. That's coming up as we continue right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown, KDKA-TV. All right, the other big news last couple of days has been, of course, the Penguins at the trade deadline. They made a lot of different moves. They acquired a lot of different picks. They have 30 picks over the next 3 years, 17 of which will happen in the first 3 years. Jeff, I want to start with you on this. Did you like what they did? Ricard Raquel is still here. Should he have been included in this?
Well, what was the offer? I mean, I'm glad they didn't feel like they had to just sell him off. Like it was something where they needed a salary dump or something along those lines. I mean, he's very affordable. You can talk in the offseason. I know that Dubas said he's a guy we can build around. He's not going to come out and say, oh, yeah, we'll look to trade him in the offseason because then that kills his leverage. I still think that is a possibility. Same with Carlson. I mean, I don't think Carlson's a guy you build around. That's something they're going to continue to look at. But I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Now it's up to their player personnel group and their ability to scout other teams. And let's see what they can come up with all these picks.
Chris, I'm going to ask you, the market suggested there probably was a really big deal out there for him, right? Everybody, you're getting a second-round pick for Anthony Beauvillier.
He's a bargain, too, with the production he's giving you, so you would think that there was probably a big deal. I would have dealt him if that big deal really was out there, like a first, a second, and a useful player. He might be at the peak of his performance and therefore his value. He's having a career year, and you could argue he's having it because he's on Sidney Crosby's wing, and maybe he'll do it again next year. I do think a small factor here is they want Crosby to get to 20 straight seasons at a point per game. Having Raquel around is going to help them do that. But I'm of the opinion if you're doing a rebuild, which they are, do it to the hilt. Like, don't leave anything out there on the
Right,
table.
because next year, who knows? You know, he may revert back to not being a 29.
If he's a 20 to 25 goal guy, suddenly $5 million is a bargain, but not as big of one.
Right.
Listen, to Chris's point, he's a streaky player, so he's red hot right now, and you would think that this could be the apex of his value. However, at the number that he's signed, even if he finishes out the last couple of weeks slow, he's still going to be valuable, and he'll be open to every team in the offseason. So if I'm Dubas, I'm still shopping him hard in the offseason.
Yeah, it's hard to criticize Dubas right now over the Raquel thing. Let's wait till the summer. I think that's when they'll move him, like you said, to be able to get a better offer, more variety in the offer there. But they're going to have to move him. I mean, I think Carlson's a bigger one. I don't know who's going to take him or anything like that, but we're looking about a guy that's what I've been told or seen with my own eyes is very selfish. A guy that's worried about his own
Doesn't
stats.
like to play defense.
And they know what that doesn't work with.
play.
No, that doesn't work with
He's
a
still
bunch of young guys coming in.
Well, but he's still a good offensive player. Tristan Jarry started today. I'm just curious your thoughts about him. He played well, but it's one game. What do you think they're doing with him, Chris?
I think they're trying to hope he plays somewhat well down the stretch and that they could find anybody who would want to trade for him, even if they have to use some of those picks they've acquired to sweeten the pot. Please take his contract. Please take his contract.
And Dubas did allude to that they could use picks in that regard.
No, and they should. I mean, when you have that many picks, let's be honest, even back a half of the first round picks in the NHL are hardly sure things. But if you've got a bunch of that capital and teams willing to take swings, if you can offload that deal and barely have to retain anything or throw enough of those picks in there that a team takes it all, just to say, hey, yeah, we'll take this off your hands, that's a pretty good use of those picks. That was an absolute just disaster contract, and everybody in that organization signed off on it, starting with the head coach, who should have to wear that one more than anybody.
Is there any chance, Jeff, in your mind that he can somehow recapture what he once had and become a useful goalie?
Wait, what did he once have?
Two-time All-Star. I understand it postseason, but I'm talking about when he played his best hockey.
Listen, goalies can be odd. We've seen guys make comebacks. We've seen guys find it when they're 30. I mean, sometimes that happens. Not often. I'm saying sometimes. But I think I'm more to Chris's point.
Well, so am I.
You have
I
some
just wanted to
depth
see
in the organization.
If he plays really well the rest of this season, it would help them trade him.
Exactly.
That's what I would do
Don't
first.
fall back in love with him.
No, that's why I asked that.
I would buy out. If he plays really poorly and no one even wants to take your picks to take his contract, I'd buy him out. He's been that bad.
Well, that's the most likely.
I think it takes a special mindset to play goalie in this town for this team. They are never going to play left wing lock, neutral zone trap, 95 Devils. You're going to face a high volume of shots.
Oh, they're not even going to move guys in front of the net.
You're going to give up goals if you play for this team, and it can be psychologically scarring if they're not scoring a bunch in front of you and you're seeing that goals against and that save percentage drop.
We got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Steelers one more time, recap what we did earlier, and have some final thoughts about what the Steelers may do coming up in the next couple of days. It's next on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. All right, to recap, DK Metcalf will be a Steeler, 5 years, $150 million, second-round pick to Seattle. So I want to ask you guys, Chris, start with you on this. What do you expect in the next couple of days from them, all positions qualified?
I expect them to sign a cornerback, a veteran corner. I don't think that they necessarily feel great about drafting them unless it's very high. So I think they're going to sign a veteran corner. I'm going to cross my fingers and say they're going to find a way to get something done with Justin Fields. I think that might take a change of heart on his part, or the Jets maybe not giving him a great offer. And then I think they're going to make some depth signings, nothing that sets the world on fire for anyone, though.
Yeah, this one was the big one. I still think the cornerbacks is a position that they can improve themselves. I would love, and I keep saying this for the past week, I'd love to have Jonathan Allen somehow get signed.
Fall
here.
into their laps here, yeah.
Man, he would be a perfect fit here. That's a guy I would like to do. Obviously, quarterback. I mean, they're just playing the game with the quarterback pump. See what happens with Fields, then move down the line there. And if it gets down far enough, it could be old number 12 throwing the ball to DK Metcalf. A-Rod.
What percentage chance would you put that on, Jeff?
Getting 12?
Yes.
Slim.
Go to your ayahuasca retreat and give us a better answer, please.
Slim. But I do think corner is going to happen, and I do think they'll find a quarterback. Listen, if they can go into the draft where they can actually look at the best players available, then I feel a lot better about the more immediate future.
All right, real quick on this, but Joe's killing me on Jackson Dart. He wants Jackson Dart in the first round. Yes or no on that?
First round?
First round.
Oh, hell no.
The odds of Joe ever seeing one play by Jackson Dart.
Especially without a second rounder now.
I'd like to look the camera and address it directly, if I may here. That is a terrible idea. He is like a fourth-round pick at
I
best.
think he's a decent guy to have.
Joe, I am
mid-round,
speaking directly to you. Awful take.
That'd be
All
a
right.
soft tip dart.
We'll see. That's coming up in April. Also, want to remind you about number 1 Cochran Ford has just added a 5th store, and to celebrate the new number 1 Cochran Ford Youngstown, all of their Western Pennsylvania locations have Ford Fab 5 grand opening savings. Pick any one of their 3 different $500 offers when you buy or lease a new Ford. Plus, enjoy 5 times the selection with more than 950 models available. Learn more at Cochran.com or visit number 1 Cochran, Ford, Monroeville, Allegheny Valley, or Butler County. Hey, we're done. Thanks for joining us today. Big thanks to our panel, Chris Mueller, Mark Kaboly, Jeff Hathhorn. It's going to be very busy here over the next several days, and we'll talk about the draft, and we'll talk about everything that's free agency related all coming up.
It's a busy couple of days here.
A very busy couple of days.
I'm not paying attention.